Real People, Real Matters. This is Diana Tulchinsky with my first guest, Phil Schorn. Phil, please tell me about your earlier life in Illinois.
I grew up in North Lake, Illinois, not far from O'Hare. Went to high school out there with West Leyden High School out there, and with me and my 5 other siblings, my parents out there, and but from there it was to Eastern Illinois after high school.
Please tell me, what age were you experimenting with artwork?
That was about around sixth grade. 6th, 7th grade, I really started getting into doing some drawing and things like that with my brothers.
Did your parents express concern, why aren't you going to the military, like in high school? Or what is this art about?
It was, they questioned my decision. It was where I had two of my other brothers were military. My father was military for a short stint. And I looked into the military and decided that I would rather go into art, straight into art.
Interesting. What was your high school like exposure to electives or anything like that?
I did a lot of the art classes, whatever I could take there, and it was I got better as I went through the high school, and by senior year I received a achievement of a merit in high school with my artwork in there with that.
And tell me, did you get a scholarship to your undergraduate or your bachelor's?
Yes, I was offered a TSA, which was a Talented Student Award for Eastern Illinois University, which paid for most of my first year, and then reapplied each year after that, and got it each year after that also. So it was, yes, it was somewhat of a process to get it, but yes, it was definitely well worth it.
Can you tell me, what is your bachelor's of commercial artist? Is that a graphic artist, or is that slightly different?
It is, I double majored, so it was at the time called commercial art, not graphic design, because it was pre-computer actually. And then the other was fine art, 2D studio fine art that I majored in. So I stayed an extra semester to finish off the second degree, the second major with that.
And can you tell me what type of artwork did you do, like ceramics?
In college, yes, it was great. I had 4 years of painting, 4 years of drawing. I had watercolor, printmaking, jewelry making, sculpture, ceramics, textiles. Then that was with the fine art. Then I did what they offered with the commercial side of it. So printing, doing darkroom work, photography, the regular beginner commercial art class, hand lettering, how to hand letter, typography, yes. And everything was done by hand because it wasn't the computers.
Wow. What was your job prospects after you finished your bachelor's, as a commercial artist? How did it flow to graphic art later on?
The job prospects was good actually. It was just finding the right spot, and I did, went downtown, interviewed with some agencies and things like that. Where I fit in better was where I ended up with a smaller printing company that had their little design studio that I was and working in that regard as a typesetter.
Interesting. And so, when did computers like the Macintosh and that type of digital design come out for you in particular?
For me, it was actually about, I want to say it 90. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, early 90s.
How did it change your life, knowing digital design and everything else?
It Where commercial art was, everything was broken up. You had somebody who did plate making, somebody who did camera work, somebody who did typography, somebody who did design. With the computer work, it kind of it brought all those different areas into one. So as a graphic artist, you, instead of wearing one hat, you started wearing several hats, and you did more than one thing, and because the computer brought it all together then. So it was but more, it was more to learn with it then.
And then, like, did you help in production, like presses, and making sure like the photography and the final piece was said right?
Yes, yes. It was because of learning a lot pre-computer, because doing everything by hand, I learned how the darkroom worked, how to develop the film, the plates, everything in the trays, and how to do the typography, doing a lot, drawing forms and things like that by hand. When it went to the computer, knowing how things are going to be printed is where it really helped out, because you work backwards. You get it printed, and you work it, you design towards how it's going to be printed.
So was printmaking and like book design and like actual like the process of like the production of like book making and everything else still like considered like a hot field when you graduated, then kind of like descended to
At the time,
digital
yes.
technology?
Yeah, it was all, with the printing was very big back then when I graduated and I got into the different printing companies and things like that. Yes, very big.
Can you tell me when you decided to actually start like going into like color pencils and prisms and pick up that pencil for yourself?
It was, so I've always been self-employed for 30 years, and I was getting asked to judge 4-H fairs, the 4-H, and going like to the Lake County Fairgrounds, and I talked to the kids there, and I'm seeing what they're doing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, these kids are really good. And I was, it was originally for the computer generated art, which was a new area, and this was about 2000, 2001, yeah. And as I sat there talking to them, and then I was like, well, how'd you do that? And I'm asking, picking them apart a little bit, and I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, well, why am I not doing that? So it got me started.
Yes.
Yes.
I understand you were diagnosed with cancer before. Can you tell me about that?
Yes. In March of 2018, I was diagnosed with a non-Hodgkin's large B-cell lymphoma of the bone of my hip joint, which took me back quite a bit. It was a complete surprise to have that diagnosis. It went from, and I used to be a runner, I used to do a lot of other things, and it went from doing everything to doing nothing overnight. And it scared the heck out of myself, my family. It was, the whole cancer process was, through Northwestern, and it was a 6 rounds of chemo, 30 days of radiation. It lasted roughly 6 to 8 months of 2018. Realizing how everything came to a standstill, I couldn't drive, I didn't go anywhere, except I did some art shows, which with a lot of help. Where one of the things that when I would draw, it gave me a place to park my mind, because when you're going through something like that, you have thoughts that are not good, and I needed a place to put myself. And where in 2018 when I was in the hospital and different things like that, I had my drawing stuff with me. My wife documented basically the process and doing the drawing and things like that in my hospital bed and stuff like that. I probably did some of my best work in 2018, actually, because I couldn't go anywhere. So I kind of took it as not what you can't do, what you do with what you got. And I tried to make the most of what I had, which now turned out to be a lot of time.
Wow. Yeah.
So I kind of like, you know what, I want to do this, because you don't know what's around the corner.
Did you talk in front of an audience in a hospital setting, or?
I was, in 2019, I was asked to be the speaker for their cancer celebration at the Lake Forest Hospital there. And there was roughly, I want to say 110 cancer survivors, doctors, and things like that, where I spoke about my story of what I went through with cancer and what got me through it. And what I ended up doing is I donated a piece of art to another a cancer survivor there that was given away. My wife and I actually wrote a booklet up on the story of what I did, and we gave that out just for the hospital for that evening.
And so basically, what are your art books about? I heard you were published twice.
The books I
Yes.
have on there, the Life is in the Details 1 and 2, those are self-published. Those I put together myself. That came about, one, I had a lot of art and I wanted to share it, but that was also when I was going through cancer treatment too, that I decided that I needed to do something.
And when did you pick up your pencil, like after you had surgery and chemotherapy and radiation?
Starting with color pencil was started before then, but with just kind of working my way back into it, and I really liked working with the color pencil, as it worked into with when I was sick and things like that. That's what kept me sane. That's what kept me going. It was being able to do my art at that time.
Did you do any art therapy afterward, or help seniors out, or is that how you became who you are today, a fine artist?
Yes, and yes. It was when I was sick and I was doing my chemotherapy and things like that, I drew all the time. Just the way things fell down, the way things happened, is I ended up drawing in the hospital, and I started the students that I had at the time, and there's several of them now that I work with that are going through cancer or have finished cancer or did the chemo, and I would push them along, and I'm like, you're not going to stop, no matter how bad you feel, keep drawing, send me pictures, send me what you're doing. I want to keep you, I'm going to push you along.
So, and then basically there's an expression when one door closes, the other door opens. So tell me the difference between your first two books. One is Life Drawing 1, Life Drawing 2. Is there a collage of meaningful photos and pictures? And
the first one came about because I kind of didn't know what was going to happen at the time when I was sick. I knew I'd be okay, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what, I'm going to do this. And I actually did it partially while in chemo and different things. The second book was, I got some when I was getting feedback on the first book. The second book was people were asking, I was getting questions well, how did you do this? So then I started adding in, I decided, okay, I have a lot more art. I wanted to show it. So I started making the notes of, not as a how-to, but my insights of what I call the insights of this was the type of paper, this is the materials, this is how I approached it. It was not a step 1, step 2, step 3 type of book, not a how-to book, but it just
Oh.
kind of like just some background of how I went about it.
And what are your tools of the trade? Like, I understand you love prism colors. Like, is there any other like oils or pastels, or like, do you recommend for artists or even amateur artists?
For drawing, I really like the Prismacolors, obviously. Other graphite drawing pencils and things like that and I kind of look at it, what I would recommend if somebody's just going to do some drawing, just get your number 2 pencil and just try it out and see what you can do with it. If you're going to do more extensive, maybe an ebony pencil, oil paints. I've done a lot of oil painting over the years, and pastels and things like that as well. So there's a lot of choices out there of what you can do and how you can do it.
And do you have any tips for high schoolers or families that are interested in like fine art or graphic art? Like, I understand with graphic art you don't need to know how to draw, but then a lot of people say you have to know how to draw. Like, what is your advice for people in the design industry now?
If
you will go back.
If I were to go back and do what I did over again, I would not go back to a 4-year university. No, it is everything that I learned for graphic design, like a community college would be absolutely spectacular to do it. They do more now than what you can learn there. But it's for going into design and things like that, what I would recommend for them is learn the programs. Then get hooked up with a small print shop. Learn the ins and outs of printing. Being a good designer is one thing. Getting it printed is another. So you got to look at it backwards. How does the printing work? The printing dictates how you design.
So everything technical on a computer or technical with the process of art making, even if you don't know how to paint level 3, like 300 level classes, we can paint it with 200 level classes.
Yes. The computers the programs are very much more user friendly with the designers and like that, working with it, and how it, like I'm an Adobe Illustrator fan, and I've been with it since version 1. So I know the ins and outs of the program, and it is a spectacular program for designers.
Oh, great. And can you tell me also what type of like oils do you recommend? Like, is there like any other like Blix versus Michaels? Like, where do you find a budget for like your family?
The saying goes, you get what you pay for.
Yes.
So if you're looking to just try it out, to try out the media, so if you want to try out oil painting or something like that, a Michaels, a Hobby Lobby, their house brands are actually pretty decent.
Oh, great.
They're not great, but they're not bad. So if you want to just try it out at a low cost, then yes, those are good options. Where if you're going to get more, do more with it and want a better quality medium and better results, then yes, going to a Blix to get, let's say, their brand Ultratech, Winsor Newton. There's tons of different brands out there and some very good paints, but then the cost goes up, with it.
Yes, like I like those English oils.
Yes.
They're very particular. And can you tell me more about this art piece?
This piece, which I call Vivian's Leaf, it was a piece I actually started at one of the shows I believe it was in Algonquin. And it was I describe the process as an art of patience, what I do. And this one I spread over about a year or so, a little over a year to do. And the process I actually went about it, it's actually free-handed. It's all color pencil, and I gridded it. I worked by a grid. So I had a smaller reference piece, smaller grids, and then I used a larger grid method on here, and I started actually in the lower right-hand corner and just kind of by grid, I would freehand in section of the grid with a pencil, and then I go in with the color pencil, and I just expanded that out. And it just, but it took an enormous amount of time.
How did you get that shadow and that brown? Was it just like color theory?
Lots of layers. One of the things with the Prismacolors, it gives me the ability to layer colors. I will have 15, 20 layers of color down. And as each layer goes up, I push down more to mix in what I want to do to create the color I want. So it is definitely a lot of color.
And with that grid, so you had a grid and then you do like charts of like what colors are complementary and then supplementary.
I have a reference. And I have, basically I'm standing here with a handful of pencils and I'm back and forth. And if it's more of a decision, do I go light to dark or dark to light? And it's kind of like both ways. And just kind of, I'm not worried about, is this a complementary color of this or whatever. No, I go with what I think looks good.
Interesting. And then so you had like how many layers, like every day you would do that pressing of the layer sheet and then just one on top of another?
You work, the way the layering works with the pencils, it's you work lightly, light touch on the pencil, and then as each layer goes up, I'm putting down more color because it makes the chance, by working lightly, it gives me the ability to blend the colors as I go along and less chance of mistakes, you know, so I don't go off track. If I put down a really heavy set of color right away, it takes away my ability to change that color. So if I work it lightly, I can always make it darker.
Oh wow, very, very nice, very nice. So it's a
process.
Yeah, I love that Vivian's leaf. And tell me, like after like with the COVID period, how did you become a teacher with Zoom? And
I was doing some in-person classes, about 3 a week, two to 3 a week before COVID hit. When everything came to a standstill in March of 20, it stopped me in my tracks, of course. Couldn't everybody shut down? And I was looking for ways. I knew it could be done online. I just needed to find the right software to do it. And I tried out a couple of different things, but then I settled on Zoom. And so within 2 weeks, 3 weeks of everybody shutting down, by the last week of March of 20, I was up on Zoom. And I went from doing 3 classes, I was up to about 8 a week.
Wow. And what was your audience like? Is it basically high schoolers, seniors?
Not so much high schoolers, more seniors, more, just more, I don't know exactly, I don't keep track of the ages, but I will say middle-aged on up. But I've also worked with several high schoolers where they were trying to finish up projects. And I had one in particular that was taking AP art and needed help finishing, you know, some project ideas and just taking a look at, and did this all on Zoom.
Oh, great. And can you tell me your works are in, have you displayed publicly in the Glenview area?
Yes, it was, I brought several pieces. I did a demo out here last month. I was with their summer show last year out here at actually about a mile from their summer fair, and I also exhibited with them at Northbrook Court a year ago, Christmas.
Oh, great.
At there for the month, 6 weeks, and I'll be with them again. I'm hoping to be out there again this year for the summer fair.
And when did you join the Glenview Art League?
That was in the fall of 21. Right before that was this winter 21, 22 that we did the Northbrook. So I saw their calling for artists.
Oh, great. And how do you like the area in general? Like, I know there's a lot of like great draws and like a lot of like audience for the Glenview Art League, and your work is beautiful.
Well, thank you. The area of Glenview is gorgeous down here. You got some nice parks. But you got some very nice industrial areas, which makes
Yes.
some interesting subject matter and things like that. Yes, lots of areas to show work. The league offers a lot of opportunities like that. Various locations.
And do you have any endeavors, or do you want to expand your studio or your videos, or maybe have another book?
I am in the process of working on a volume 3. It's been taking me a while, but I am in the process of that. Right now I'm focused on the summer shows coming up this summer, this fall. I'm getting set up for that.
And where has your work been displayed in the North Shore area? Like I know, like Grays Lake, and then Glenview, Northbrook, downtown.
Not so much downtown, but in northern Cook County, Waukegan, Grays Lake. I have been in Libertyville several times, Lake Forest. This year my shows will take me to Highland Park, Evanston.
And you're also doing the summer art.
Yes.
Yes. In the Glenview area.
Yes.
And what is your draw like out? Basically, who buys your basically your works in the Glenview area? Just like seniors, or just like young moms?
Not. Actually, it's everybody. It's there is no set. I don't target like a certain age group for my art.
Donors or anything like that. Like, do you have beneficiaries or?
No,
charities?
I donate art. I've donated for different causes and things like that. But but as in is there a certain group of people that I target for? No.
Oh,
it's
great.
everybody who wants to see it on their wall.
Thank you, Phil Schorn.
Well, thank you so much for letting me be here today.
Thank you for watching Real People, Real Matters. This is Diana Tulchinsky with my guest, Phil Schorn. Please watch us again.